Thank you very much, Lee. Hello, fellow explorers. We have over 750 people signed up, showing what an interest there is in this incredible part of the world, Alaska. I'm joined here today by my friend and colleague, Verena, our chief scientist. Slimmed down version for those that have seen our webinars before, where there's usually three of us. But yeah, just the two of us today, because we're both incredibly passionate about Alaska. We're joined in the background by an incredible team with a wealth of knowledge in designing these products, in being to Alaska, and also living in the area. So if you do have questions as we go through the webinar, then please do tap them into the chat box as question and answer box, as Lee mentioned, and we will answer them as we go through. But also at the end, we will field all the sort of common questions and we'll bring Ollie in to question us, and we can try and answer as much as we can live at the end. Those of you that are new to HX, then what makes HX different from other brands? At HX, we really look at mixing that adventure. So the places we go, the places in Alaska, with the comfort of our ships, and to make you as comfortable as possible with our food and all those type of things, along with sustainability, which is really at the core of what we do in terms of reducing our impact, working with communities, our hybrid ships, Roald Amundsen and Nansen, which sail in Alaska, etc., etc. We have now been operating expeditions with our incarnation of different names from 1896. So this year is our 130th birthday, and we are super proud of that. And it's something that we haven't lived to see it. I wasn't on the first sailing, but I've been on a few. Verena started slightly before me, so that's with her group. So that's all brilliant. We are very much made for curious travelers, and we will hear in this webinar about our science and education program, because we really want you to understand the places we sail and take away that deep meaning. And then also we really look at that mindful adventure mentioned about the minimizing our impact in everywhere we go. Expedition cruising. What is expedition cruising? Going to Alaska, there's a multitude of choices from big expedition ships to smaller ships, and we are in the expedition part. And what that means is we take you to places you can't get in other ways. We take you off the ship. We use the ship as the base camp, and if you like, and we take you in our small boats called Zodiacs. We have an expedition team, and we take you to all these places. So it's a very different experience than a cruise. And it's really about the destination and getting that in-depth focus. So to bring in Verena, the trips in Alaska are mostly on our ship MS Roald Amundsen, and we do one trip on MS Fridtjof Nansen as it comes through the Northwest Passage back south. Tell us a little bit about the ship, Verena.
Yes, of course. So Roald Amundsen and Fridtjof Nansen are our biggest ships. They are hybrid ships as well, so rather silent and very comfortable. And if we talk about one, then you will understand both. You really need to go with your magnification glass if you want to find the difference between the ship. They are really exactly the same. They both have Norwegian style, very comfortable cabins. You can also treat yourself to one of our suites that are very, very comfortable. We also have the choice of 3 different restaurants on these both ships. So you have the option of a la carte menu in Lindström, or you can decide to have a very fancy dinner in Lindström as well. One offers a very classical menu opportunity, and you can have a Fredheim, you can have meals throughout the day. So there is choice. You don't have to have all your meals in one single place. We have a very varied menu as well, with the different options in Fredheim, particularly to discover different cuisines, which are amazing. And that is important when you are on a longer trip. You want to have that variety and different choices and tastes.
And the majority of our food that we supply for these trips, we buy locally. So that's very important. We try and again reducing our impact in our food miles. You mentioned, Verena, the sort of the comfort and feel, and we've got a few shots here. But what's sort of going on the feel of the ship? I think these give a great idea.
Yes, I think the best part of our ships is that they are very outward looking. So we have great windows everywhere around the ship. All of the cabins are outward looking. So you can be as much looking out as you want. The expedition lounge, the restaurants, the bars, everything is open to the environment, to the outside world. And it's very comfortable. You can look for a comfortable spot in the expedition lounge, or you can have a fantastic experience a bit lower on deck 6, where the restaurants are found, closer to the water by sitting in the restaurant or around the science center area. So it is very comfortable. There is lots of space to not feel trapped either on those very comfortable ships.
I was waiting until you were going to say Science Centre because I know we're going to talk about it in a bit, but of
Yes,
course
we
it's
will.
your big baby. For the last couple of years, we've been all inclusive, and that's important to us because we don't want you to be having to dip your hand in your pocket to buy a beer or for your Wi-Fi or even for our professional photos that our photographer will take and provide as a logbook at the end of the voyage. So all that is provided, including an expedition jacket. We provide you with rubber boots, and we for the duration of the trip, and provide walking sticks and that type of stuff. So you can be really comfortable. There are optional extras that are in terms of activities that you can enhance your trip. Some excursions going on the shore side, and also things like kayaking that we do charge extra for. But the basic package is all there. You don't have to dip your hand in your pocket. We've got a little video now that we're going to just share, just to give you a sort of teaser of what it's all about before we talk more in depth about the destination. So here we go.
Right now, I do. There he is.
Oh my God! First bear!
How was it go? Small, colorful songbird that
That was amazing and very cold.
Large foundation.
But you see what I meant by outward facing, Tudor. Even the sauna has an amazing window where you can relax and enjoy the view.
Yeah, no, I think that reinforces everything we say. I was actually on board when that was filmed, so it makes me smile even more seeing it. But it's really special. At the core of our itineraries on all our trips, it's mentioned there, and these trips are pretty special because we have a mix of those expedition days, which you saw in the video, and also those visits to communities, which were also featured in those. But there is a variety on these itineraries, which I think really make them special. They're not all one thing or the other. They're that mix of that culture, community, and education, which we'll try and talk about now. But Verena, talks a little bit about the science and education program.
Yes, of course. So our science and education program is or was designed to be able to support the scientific community by offering our ships as platforms of opportunity, which for our guests, it means that they will have the opportunity to interact with researchers while traveling with us to any of our destinations. We also put a lot of focus on not only giving lectures, but also offering activities that are more immersive, hands-on, so that guests get a better opportunity to learn a lot about the destination. And as mentioned, you have the opportunity to interact with the researchers themselves, but also to help contribute to a number of citizen science projects, which will be detailed a bit longer. But we also have a number of activities that are run from the vessel. Those ones include, for example, going out on deck and do what we call the deck watches, where we will be spotting wildlife and contributing to a number of projects. We will have practical sessions on our science centers that are equipped with microscopes and museum type exhibits and sampling equipment, and is really the heart of Deck 6. We will also be doing ship cruising, where we will invite you to join us on the decks and enjoy the sailing. And of course, we will have our lectures and other types of activities, like invite you to create cards or do figurines with clay, and many options. But we did mention citizen science projects, and we do contribute to a number of those, over 20 worldwide. Some of them are destination specific, but globally we contribute to at least these ones that you have in front of you. eBird, where we contribute to observations of birds around the world. iNaturalist, which is you can use to contribute to observations of everything living, insects, plants, algae, marine mammals, everything you want. Happy Whale is about marine mammals. Cloud Observers, we contribute observations of clouds to help validate what the satellites are observing. And that is just to mention a few. Our dear Alice in the background, she will create a snapshot of this slide so that you get that information that you can look into if you are interested, if joining one of our trips, to prepare yourself for this. And I mentioned destination-specific projects. And in Alaska, we are very proud to contribute to this particular project, which is called Harmful Algal Bloom Watch. And as you know, phytoplankton is very important for every ocean. It is the basis of any food web, but there are some species that can be toxic, and they bloom under certain circumstances. So what we do is that we analyze the water samples that we take, and if we find some of the key species that are responsible for these toxic blooms, we will inform the authorities and the communities. So we are helping communities keep safe. Here again, the two QR codes for the project and for an application that helps identify different plankton species if you want to download it and play around. And yeah, that is it for the science and education program.
I think one of the lovely things, obviously the destinations are incredible, but the feedback from our guests, so that the in-depth nature of our science and education program, from the guest scientists to the citizen science programs to our science centers, they're just blown away, and they get really involved. Those that haven't done their research before say it's a super highlight and they wish they'd known before. I'm so glad all of you in this call are here doing your research and doing this. But that understanding of these places is really important for us, and that is the responsibility of going to these incredible places. Of course, that's Verena was talking about what happens on the ship. But off the ship, we back that up with science boats to collect those samples that we look at in the science center. But we also do incredible experiences of kayaking, where you're close to the water. It's a very different experience. Of course, the small boat cruising, again, getting off the ship, going into these smaller bays, fjords, looking at glaciers up front, absolutely incredible. The hikes, so at nature landings, community visits. Again, we'll talk about those in a little bit, and also those cultural experiences, which are really mind-blowing in Alaska, and something before I went, I knew about it, I'd read about it, but seeing it firsthand and seeing the different cultures really makes the destination alive. We often get asked questions. We're talking about off-ship activities, about getting on and off the ship, and concern about, am I fit enough? What's it involved? So getting on and off the ship, we have our ships are purpose-built expedition ships. We have these shell doors that open and create a tender pit, which you can see here. So it's a purpose-built platform that comes out. Our small boats, our Zodiacs, come up and dock alongside those, and our crew help you in and out. People say, am I fit enough? If you can stand from a bench, supporting yourself, pushing up and down, that means you are fit enough. The Zodiacs are basically two big inflatable benches with an engine on the back. Please don't tell the makers of the boats what I said, but that's basically what they are. And getting in and out, and at all times we have crew and expedition team there to help you, and they are the workhorse of getting us ashore and doing landings and small boat cruising. So that's really something, the workhorse of the expedition industry, as we said. So yeah, I think though that's hopefully answered your questions about Zodiacs and tender pit and getting on and off the ship. More into Alaska. It really is this place of contrasts. And what I wanted to bring out was really bring some pictures that I took when I went recently last July and August of the contrasts and things that sort of stuck in my mind. It's better to be fresh. Our season starts in May and runs through to early September. So that is the Alaska season. But the mix from seeing bears up in Kodiak or the Katmai National Park, the bald eagles, which you see your first one and you're really excited, and then as you go further north, they're like gulls when in Britain or on the east or the coasts of the US, where they're everywhere. Through to those seals, an incredible landscape, and of course the power of nature with the glaciers and waterfalls, absolutely incredible. But it's not all for me. It's not all about those big, incredible sort of features, but you get these incredible landscapes like this. This is at Unga, a deserted village a bit further up in the north, and what looks like a green, well, beautiful landscape. But when you look into the depths of the grasses, you come up with this incredible life. And as I've got the chief scientist in the call with me, I won't try and embarrass myself, but this is just some of the stuff that I observed. Verena, talk us through about the diversity here.
It's incredible. Like, as you said, it may look very homogeneous, but just put your nose to the ground and you will discover that it is super varied and very diversified. But what was my first question to you, Morgan? It was, did you iNaturalist this?
Of course I iNaturalist.
It is a great way to keep a record of all observations you do during your trip and learn about the biodiversity of the places that we are visiting. So I'm very proud of you, Tudor, for making so many pictures.
You taught me well. I have to admit, the bottom right, the Devil's Club, is taken near Wrangell in the woods, but the others were taken at Unga.
Okay, but it's distributed throughout Alaska.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. No, but incredible, and I think that's part of the fun, I think, of all our expedition cruises, bringing out that sort of explorer nature and inquisitiveness, which is brilliant, and having the expedition team on board to support and help is brilliant. And then I think, one of the real big things about Alaska is that complex mix of culture. And on our trips, we visit small communities. The northern trips up in St. Paul, which is like 200 miles from anywhere, through to Klawok now, a small Tlingit village with a small population but incredible totem poles, to the fishing villages of places like Dutch Harbour, which features in Deadliest Catch. All those all sort of revolving around that mixed history. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But the real sort of population boom in Alaska was based around the gold rush. And I was joking with Verena when we were talking about this. I said, Verena, you're Mexican. You must love gold. Talk to us a little. I'm putting you on the spot now.
The gold rush was around the 1800s, and it actually started more in the Canadian side, and then Segway in Alaska was where it started. And then there were other cities that bloomed because of it, the last one being Nome. But what is important to note is that because of this gold rush, the population increased dramatically in a very short period of time, going from a few thousands to over 10,000 people living in the area. So it was a drive for people to come to this very inaccessible and wild place, huge place.
Yeah, really. And you kind of see that in the relics of different communities where you can see where there's been development and been taken over by nature again.
Yes,
really
there's many ghost towns after the gold rush, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, some of them have been transformed into museums as well. So it's there is also that opportunity.
So and one of the things across Alaska, there's 11 recognized native groups of people. But on the coast, we get a mix of the Tlingit, the Haida, and Aleuts, and the Aleut further in the north. And seeing the variety of the Alaskan native art, whether it be through these depictions of orca or the raven, absolutely incredible, or through different types of totem pole, or in the different Aleut fishing techniques. This is in the museum, a photo taken in the museum. But one of the things that captured me was their hat, the cap, the fishing cap that was very ornate and specific to the Aleut. And Verena, across North America, the symbolism of the raven, and it's really, really strong, isn't it? All the way through from Latin America, all the way up, all through the whole Americas.
Yes, it's a shared interest and connection to nature and the wildlife. So yes, it's really interesting to see it still very taken into consideration when putting new Alaskan native art also embeds the wildlife still strongly.
And I think the new native art really brings out, and there's ample opportunity to buy a keepsake of modern Alaskan native art, but it really brings and keeps those traditions alive. And I think through this voyage from Vancouver, going up through the Haida, the Tlingit, you really get to see the variety and really get to and the itineraries are curated to see those differences as well. So fantastic. As well as the native, of course, the native Alaskans, after them, if you like. Obviously, they're still there. But of course, Alaska was Russian. And this was very much part of the Russian-American company, which was very much based around the fur trade. And the fur company was started in 1799 and ceased operations in 1881, really about the fur trade. Sitka, old name was New Archangel. And when you go, the picture of inside the church in Sitka, very Russian Orthodox. The picture to the right is the church up in Dutch Harbour or Unalaska. And you see on top of the churches throughout Alaska that still the cross on top is a Russian Orthodox cross with more crosses. So you really get that. But the fur trade has been really, really important for Alaska, and one of the reasons in the history books that the Russians were happy to sell this useless place, Alaska, to the Americans was because there was nothing left. What had they taken, Verena?
They were mostly taking sea otters, and they, in one year, particularly towards the end of the exploitation, they took 300,000 sea otters. So you can imagine that there was not much left to find, and it was becoming very expensive for the Russian government to keep such a vast area and maintain it. So that is what drove the selling Alaska to the United States. But the sea otters, why were they looked after so much? They have an amazing fur that is composed of two different types of hair, the guard hair and the underfur, which is very warm. It is also waterproof. It's super flexible, buoyant. So it was amazing, an amazing article to use for coats, hats, and all fashionable things, to the point that they they hunted them to almost extinction, and that led to the selling of the area.
Yeah. And I think one of the things on the on all our trips, but on the one of the memories of my trip was small boat cruising and these sea otters popping up all over the place, and they're so cute, but you can see why they were such easy targets, because they're lying on the surface of the water, lying with their backs looking up to the sky. They're adorable.
Yes.
Yeah, and really curious. But then back in 1867, well documented, the US purchased Alaska, and it went through different names from a department, a district, and territory until it finally became incorporated as a state of the US in 1959. But some of the things that sort of, again, captured me about sort of modern day Alaska, if you like, one, I'm very much into polar history, but and the outdoors. But of course, the famous Iditarod dog race, which actually started as a race in 1972, is 1,500 kilometers or 938 miles of dog racing through incredibly tough conditions. And it's based on old historic trails, but of course, one of the main trails was the serum run, when Nome had run out of serum and was really in need of the medicines, and they couldn't get them any other way. So they did this incredible dog sled to ride to deliver these serums back in 1925. But now in Alaska, you get this real mix of modern day America, from some modern shops through to the Native American. You get the mix of the sort of forces and the realization that the Arctic is, the Arctic states very much in the news now about the geopolitics, and lots about Greenland, but also about the investment in Alaska and how important Alaska is. One is these sort of early warning signs, and this picture on the right, a part of the early warning stations, and this is from a picture I took in the museum, but it kind of interested me, but really sort of demonstrated the importance and the place of Alaska there. Yeah, and that sort of Pacific seaboard and the Aleutian chain. So something that, again, that modern day history mixing with the heritage of the native Alaskans, and including, some places claim to have 4 flags flying over them, from the Native American, the Russian, the British when the Hudson Bay Company were trapping, and then the American. So real mixed cultures, which you really see there. We mentioned, small boat cruising, and of course, this is one of my shots from Misty Fjords, and one of my other loves is very varied, but of trees, and having this incredible landscape of these big Sitka spruce rainforests and Douglas fir and hemlock coming, straight from from the ocean up into the mountains until you see the glaciers beyond. And you just think, how did the early explorers actually penetrate and get to these places? Of course, waterways were the main thing, Verena, but the exploitation of wood for the growth of California in particular, where a lot of timber and lumber was felled and taken south. But he just, I know when you were there, what were your impressions of this sort of dense canopy of woods? And yeah,
it's incredible. It's like you say, it's from the water edge all the way up to the mountains. You are in this very dense forest, and they are not only visually dense. You try to walk in it. It's there's ferns and mosses and lichens, and it's incredible. Very dense, and the reason is it's like you said, a rainforest. There is a lot of precipitation in these forests, and they are amazing. They smell gorgeous as well.
the smell is amazing. Yeah.
Yes.
But I also, when I was there, any noise or anything you hear, you think, is that a bear? Is that what am I seeing? And the birds, and you're sort of looking around. Your sense is so quiet with the noise of the trees, yet the noise of nature really
Right.
sort of
Yes.
heightens the senses. It's really magic. And I think one of the things, I know maybe drumming the point home, but one of the things is the contrast. So, in the same cruise, you're going from here, from Misty Fjords up to Icy
North.
Bay, and you get that variety. And again, this was a standard day. You can see it wasn't blue skies, but that mixture and the power of nature, and and I know in previous talks, Verena, we've said, one of your magic moments was coming in here and the cloud lifted. But
Yes.
when you go into something like this, what's your feelings? I'll tell you mine in a minute, but just
Well, it's the immensity. This glacier front is also impressively big. You approach it with the Zodiacs, always keeping a safe distance, of course. But when I was there, it was foggy. So the fog was coming and going. There was this play in light, and the sun was out. So there was also reflection and icebergs appearing and disappearing, and you could hear the ice cracking on the background. So it is an incredible place. And as you mentioned, here the vegetation is almost gone. So you are back in a very mineral landscape dominated by ice. So it's very contrasting, like you said previously, between the forests and this very mineral landscape. It's amazing.
And I think this, where we go into here in Icy Bay, there's a few different arms. There's SAR and, but they're like these big basins. And they're just like, you go in as you sail in slowly and it opens up. And there's just this big horseshoe of glaciers and waterfalls melting and that power. And, you look in this, one of the things, although, I'm not, I like snapping photos with my mobile phone, but the color of the water here is just rock flour. This is the glacier that's pummeled the rock into submission and ground it down into sediment, and it's pouring out. And you just think, and the power and the noise of that water is incredible. You think this is what has shaped Alaska, and then you can see the sort of succession of landscapes as the glaciation has retreated and the forest has taken over. So yeah, absolutely amazing. Yeah.
But also as you go north, it's and these trips are particularly good to really follow that change.
Yeah. So talking of trips, so we have four different itineraries, and they go from Vancouver north to Whittier, and then Whittier back to Vancouver. So that's a northbound and a southbound. And then we have two long itineraries that go from Vancouver all the way up to Nome, and then Nome back to Vancouver. So they're different ones. Within the north and southbound, we have slightly different number of days. So this one, the northbound, we have 9 days, and we've done that to try and give a bit of variety, to give you our guests some choice. So you really and Whittier, it's very close to Anchorage. It's only an hour and 20-minute transfer. So then you're in the capital and the Big Smoke, where there's also incredible things to do pre or post your trip. But all these trips, we're exploring the inside passages. We're taking in the incredible wildlife and the culture. The southbound trip is slightly longer. We add 3 extra days, and we add some more sites to really look at the Tongass National Forest, and those different places. Klawuk, which again is a Inuit village with these totem poles, so some really good stuff, and also Alert Bay down in Canada, further south. To really give a bit more variety between the north and south. So that gives those different choices there. And then northbound, this longer trip where we go up into the Aleutian chain and all the way out to Dutch Harbour and St. Matthew and St. Paul, all the way up to Nome. An absolute, again, an amazing trip. If you've got the time, then really this is fantastic. And we do this trip, and then the one trip we do on Nansen, the sister ship to Amundsen, is this trip. And Nansen is coming through the Northwest Passage from Greenland, and that trip finishes in Nome and then comes down through Alaska. And Roald Amundsen northbound trip then does the reverse. It sails from Nome to Greenland. So if you want to combine two amazing trips and be away for 40 days, then yeah, absolutely stunning time to do those opportunities. Absolutely. People say, when's the best time to go? Verena, I mean, my stock answer is when you go, because it's amazing. But what would you pick as a sort of highlights? We've got this little chart here to help.
I think it really depends on what you want to experience. If you are open to whatever comes, it's then your choice whenever you have the time to come. But if you are more into chasing the bears, then join later in the season, particularly the longer trips that go to the Aleutians as well. If you want to see eagles, again, like Tudor mentioned, they are everywhere, even in the picture, or on your picture of the church in Dutch Harbor, you had eagles on top of the crosses. But if you want to have the opportunity maybe to get to see northern lights, then the later in the season you go, the better, and that would be end of August, beginning of September. So that would be the last trip, the one before doing the Northwest Passage, or the trip on board Nansen after the Northwest Passage, the one starting in Nome.
Yeah, absolutely. If you'd like to read some more, then we recommend these books. And again, there will be this information is in the chat. Alice has put it there. Golden Spruce is very much about the forest and woodland management, trees, and it's kind of a sad story, but it brings in the community. But it's a really well written book. Polar War, a recently published book, very much about the whole Arctic, but about the geopolitics of the region, and also the different approaches from Norway, but also the influx of Russia and China. Really fascinating read if you're into geopolitics. Knud Rasmussen, a Danish explorer, prolific. He was born in Greenland, but one of his big passions was polar people, the Eskimo, as they called them at the time, the Inuit, and the connections.
And preserving their knowledge.
Absolutely, yeah. So it was around the 1920s, 1930s, he did this massive expedition where his aim was to circumnavigate the Arctic and taking his time to really look and document the different cultures of the different peoples of the Arctic. So an incredible expedition and well worth the read. John Muir, you must have all heard of John Muir, the American conservationist, naturalist. He sort of quoted that different places, including Misty Fjords, was the most beautiful place on Earth. So a testament to what he thought of Alaska. And then, of course, Birds of Alaska. You can't go wrong with having a good wildlife guide. Before we just change over to questions and bring in Ollie, just then very quickly, as a thank you for joining us. If you would like to book a trip with us, it doesn't have to be Alaska, but we would love you to join us in Alaska. We will, by using this code HX Webinar 250, we will give you an extra 250 euros onboard credit. Our currency on board is euros, as a company based in Europe. In the UK, but our onboard currency is euros. It is our 130th year, and as such, our commercial teams have put on some incredible offers, and we do have offers on at the moment with up to 20% off Alaska trips. So please do look at those. If you're interested in excursions, which I didn't mention, then when you look at your individual trip, you choose your dates of your trip, then there is a tab in there and it says excursions, and it lists out the excursions specifically for that trip. Every day we have an included activity, whether we're going to a community or on an expedition trip. But if you want to book a trip with one of our partners in a community, then you can do that and look at the web. You can either do those by booking on board when you join the ship, or if you really want to book something before, then if you call one of our expedition specialists, then they will help you book that before you join the trip. Just the activities like kayaking are bookable when you're on board. Yeah, it all makes sense. But if you have any questions, then please do call our expedition specialists. We have done a series of similar webinars for different destinations, well, all our destinations. So if you are interested in learning more about other places, then please, again, follow this or scan and follow these recordings. And also, just hot off the press, our brand ambassador for 130th year, Monty Halls, has done a mini series on the Galapagos. It's only half of them have been released, 6 so far. The rest are to come out in a month's time, but well worth a watch, and yeah, great fun. So again, learn about the Galapagos, another incredible destination. Just feel really lucky that we managed to get there. So I'm going to hand over to Ollie. I'm going to stop sharing screen. And Ollie, what are the hot topics come out of this?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
loud and clear.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that entertaining presentation, as ever. Much appreciated. And thank you, everybody, for your questions. Lots of good engagement there, so appreciate it. Some of the questions we've had are around how kind of busy it gets in Alaska and some of the kind of peak times of the season, like July and August, and how many ships you might see along the way. So yeah, just interested, like from your perspectives, like
Yeah.
when.
So I think Alaska is a very popular cruise destination because it's very hard to get to in other ways. So the big ports like Sitka are known as cruise destinations, whilst we try and we avoid most of the big destinations, hence going to smaller communities. So the big places with that, you know, you can only go to with a big ship, then yes, it does get busy. July and August are peak season, but the advantage of going on an expedition ship is getting out of off the beaten track.
Yeah, great. And then there's a question around Alaskan salmon. I've read reviews that it can come from Norway or elsewhere. I don't know, Verena, if you have any intel into the salmon. If you're
Alaskan salmon. Well, there is a lot around Alaska about salmon, particularly in Sitka, for example, and Cordoba and all the places. But in Sitka, you can visit the science center and have a guided information walk through their facilities, and they will tell you the living cycle of the salmon and how they have been fighting now to protect it, because populations have reduced due to climate change, due to introduced species, due to a lot of human-induced stressors. But we're talking about the wild populations of salmon. In Norway, most of the salmon that is sold comes from farms. So yeah, it's not very easy to compare the two products, and especially not for somebody who doesn't like salmon. Sorry.
But but Alaskan salmon is very different. I eat salmon. Verena doesn't. So there's 5 different Alaskan salmon species, and from the red eye to the silver, the coho,
Yes.
and they it the color's different, the meat tastes slightly different, but as Verena says, the salmon farming industry of Norway and other places in the Atlantic hasn't really hit Alaska in the same way, and there still is a big native population which is caught. And of course, one of the things when we see bears is when the salmon's running. And the bears and other wildlife are just there picking salmon out of the water, and they couldn't care less about anybody else because they're so full because they've been stuffing themselves full of salmon. So seeing those salmon runs is a really good thing. And of course, you don't see that in elsewhere in the world these days.
And is it local salmon that we serve in the restaurants on board?
We buy it from we actually buy it in Vancouver, but
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. And then there's a question we often get around the ship and 490 guests on board being the absolute maximum, and whether, Tudor, perhaps you could help with this one, how much time you get off the ship for Zodiac cruises and landings, and how that varies compared to Antarctica, for example, where we're only allowed 100 people at a time to do that.
Same as I think same as everywhere in the world, depending on regardless of what ship from Santa Cruz to these ships, we split people into groups. So we manage the daily operations in groups. The big difference with Alaska is we don't have limits of number of people, but we don't want to swamp a landing. So we do rotate people around. And again, sort of 90 minutes seems to be a really comfortable amount of time ashore when we do a nature landing. And our small boat cruising, again, tends to be about an hour, plus or minus, maybe a little bit longer, depending on how far away we are from places. So we do that rotation. Of course, these itineraries also have time when we're in communities, and then we can put everybody ashore. So we get that mix, and again, it's about that sort of operational plan.
Thank you. There's a question around children and suitability for specifically a 12-year-old, but I guess, broadly, what would you say in terms of opportunities to take children on this kind of expedition? Would you recommend
Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely. Our science and education program is open for all ages. The destination speaks for itself. And I think as a destination, those contrasts and the visibility that you get from different areas, I think those senses, I think is great for all ages. Our minimum age now, I think we always go between 5 and 6. I think it's 6, is it, Ollie?
6, I think. Yeah.
6. Yes, and the ships are well suited as well. And as Verena said at the start, the ships have a lot of space. So although you have 400 people, 400 guests on board, you don't really feel like there's 400 on board because you sort of, there's so much space, whether it's in the bar, the science center, the restaurants, so people, you find the space. So whether you're with a 12-year-old or whatever. So I mean, it's a good family destination. It's based in obviously during the summer holidays, July and August, the trip. So yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And then when it comes to the activities, the question we have in the chat is around, are the excursions hikes and Zodiac rides, or is it getting off and doing a bus tour like a mass market cruise? So I had assumed it would be more similar to the experience in the Galapagos, except that we weren't charged for the kayak, stand-up paddleboard in the Galapagos.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you mind talking to that as well, please?
Yeah, I know, absolutely similar to the Galapagos, but those that haven't been with us to the Galapagos, then every day there's included activities. So obviously, when we're doing expedition days, as in under our own devices of small boat cruising, kayaking, we do that, or nature landing. So that's all part of the day. The kayaking is a chargeable extra, and then when we go to a community, we would take people ashore. We have one activity that is included, and then there are usually multiple other activities that our team in the background here have hand-picked to enhance the trip or to add some extras. So if people are really into a certain element, whether it be the culture or history, then there are trips that people can join. So some of those could be by bus. Some of those could be by boat. Some of those could be walking tours, very much depending on the location.
Excellent. Thank you. This is a good question. What are the nationalities of most of your guests? So, don't know which one of you would like to answer that, but
Go, Verena.
go on, Verena.
Okay. In Alaska, we do have a mixture, mostly UK and US passengers, but we also have a good amount of Germans joining us, some French, but yeah, mostly English-speaking people.
Quite a few Australians as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
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 So a nice mixture. You don't get one dominant nationality, which I think
Yeah.
a lot of people really enjoy as part of the
Yeah.
experience, mixing with different
Yeah.
cultures and nationalities on board.
Yeah. And when I was on board last August, there was I was surprised just because I'm still working, although some of my colleagues say I don't work, but that's unfair. Just get a go at you, Ollie. No, that quite a lot of people were going on, extended trips afterwards. So they were away, and the cruise was part of a longer holiday. So it's quite a lot of. You mentioned the Australians; they seem to travel for months at a time. But going and getting off the ship, or being in Vancouver, there's the opportunity to really go and explore.
Great. You covered off in the presentation, Tudor, about the main requirement for enjoying the expedition to be to get in and out of a Zodiac, a small boat. There's a couple of questions around if you are disabled or you need a mobility scooter to get around the ship and you can't walk that far. I think it would be good to just kind of talk to like the experience there, and would you still recommend the expedition?
Yeah. So all our ships have elevators or lifts. So accessing different decks is very easy. And our ships are, new, so they're up to modern standards in terms of access to the cabins and the restaurants. In terms of the amount of activities that anybody does, it's up to you. So if you want to go ashore, or if you don't want to go ashore for any particular reason, then you don't have to. In terms of having a mobility scooter, that does provide a problem when we're using our Zodiacs, because getting in and out of the Zodiac, that is a challenge. We do have guests that go on the ship with families, and they do have a mobility scooter. They stay on the ship and enjoy the comforts of the ship, whilst their family have gone off and enjoyed and come and report back. And as a family had a great experience. So it is a bit for everyone. And certainly being on the ship with a mobility scooter is not a barrier. But getting on and off the ship in the Zodiacs, then there is a level of mobility that is required.
Verena, in terms of the sea conditions, there's a specific question around from the passage from Nome to Dutch Harbor, but just kind of generally how rough is the sea conditions around Alaska and that particular passage, please?
Tudor, you went through that stretch. I haven't experienced it myself
A little bit,
yet.
yeah.
But
Generally, the trip is, as the person that asks the questions know what they're asking, because south of that, then you are in sort of inner passages and protected. When you go north of the Aleutian chain, then you are in more open sea, and it's quite a shallow sea. When I've been in that area a few times now, and we haven't it hasn't been really rough, but it can, of course, conditions vary. And again, the ships with stabilizers. The landings on St. Matthew and St. Paul, they are exposed islands. They both have good landing areas in terms of coming into, St. Matthew is a beach landing. St. Paul is going into a pier, so you can go. We go in with a small boat, so it can be protected. But yeah, it can be. It is more open ocean, which you'd expect.
Nothing like the northern ocean, the stretch
No.
between Norway
The North
and
Sea is, I think, the
North
roughest
Sea.
stretch, isn't it? Yeah.
It's not to be compared to that, for
No.
sure.
No.
Okay, one final question. I think we've got 1 minute left. So I'm planning to do the Northwest Passage. Great. Any stops in Alaska? We start in Nome.
If you start in Nome, then not. The first stop on the Northwest Passage itinerary is around at just across when you cross the border into Canada.
Brilliant. Thought that was the case. Okay. Well, that completes the webinar today. So thank you very much for everyone who's joined today, and thank you to Tudor and Verena for your presentation. Fantastic.
And hope to see you on board soon.
Indeed. There will be a little survey that pops up, and we'd love your feedback so that we can improve these for future as well. But please do take advantage of that webinar code as well.
Yes.
Lovely. Thanks very much, everyone. And enjoy Alaska. It's an incredible place, and we'll see you on board sometime soon.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.